the rand trading around 7 Rand 3 against the dollar at this point. Of course, we've just had news coming out that the current account deficit shrank to 2.5% of GDP in the second quarter. That's from 4.6% in the first quarter and also lower than expectations of 3.2%. Do you think this could provide the rand with some more legs today?
Morning, Stephen. Yes, absolutely. This was definitely one of the key figures that was due out this week, the current account data. And with the current account having narrowed, the deficit on the current account having narrowed even better than market expectations, we saw the rand strengthen immediately after the news and probably will continue to do so for most of the day, unless, of course, retail sales come out much worse than expected.
Of course, we are expecting a dip in retail sales, and this is July's numbers, because we had quite a lot of World Cup buying, particularly of big screen TVs and DVDs and the likes.
Yes, absolutely, Stephen. In May and June's numbers were exceptionally high given the current economic climate. And so we definitely are expecting a moderation now that the World Cup numbers will largely have dissipated from the data. So we're actually expecting that the 7.1% growth that was seen in June would have moderated to about 5.6% for July.
It looks like the World Cup also helped to with that current account deficit with foreign inflows coming in over the World Cup. So do you think that we can sustain it at these levels, or do you think we could see that deficit expanding as the year progresses?
Well, Stephen, the deficit can be expected to widen if economic growth, the tempo starts to pick up again. That's generally the pattern of the South African economy. I wouldn't expect it to continue to narrow if growth picks up because, of course, the World Cup and those tourist receipts were a once-off event. So definitely the bias would seem to be on the side of a widening current account and then greater rand weakness for the coming quarters.
Of course, that rand strength that we saw this morning was really a continuation from yesterday when we saw it strengthening significantly after that Fed announcement last night. Could you maybe just go through the reaction we saw on that? Because I saw the dollar was at 6-week lows against a basket of currencies this morning.
Yes, Stephen. Well, actually, the rand had started to strengthen from yesterday morning. So a number of bond auctions in Europe go off better than expected. So those sovereign debt fears were receding, and the rand seemed to be tracking the euro stronger yesterday. Then that trend continued after the Fed statement. As expected, they kept their interest rate on hold, and they didn't announce any plans to expand quantitative easing. But they appeared to leave the door open on further quantitative easing in the months ahead, or perhaps even next year. And I think markets reacted well to that news, to the news that the Fed stands ready to do whatever is necessary to keep on propping up the US economy. So we saw risky assets, emerging market currencies such as the rand, really rally quite strongly on the back of that news.
Well, we had the IMF coming out yesterday saying the rand was about 5 to 15% overvalued at current levels and that the SARB should be building reserves. Did we see any reaction from the IMF statements to the rand?
Not much, Stephen, or I should say the rand didn't seem to react much to the news that the IMF thinks it's overvalued, because I think that's really the general feeling. We've had several key government officials come out to say that they're concerned about the strength of the rand. So I don't think that was anything new. But I think that the rand's strengthening bias was helped by the fact that the IMF upgraded its growth forecast for South Africa for this year and through to 2012.
From these levels, what would you expect the rand to do from here?
From here, Stephen, we still think that the rand's short-term strengthening bias is firmly in place. We have been expecting it to dip below 7 Rand for some time. It didn't occur this week, but we do think that in the short term we could see it test those levels.